Hello, and welcome to Message in the Middle with Marianne. We all know that life is hard, right? It's messy, it's unpredictable, but it can be wonderful all at the same time. My hope is that we can take a deep dive into self-development topics and explore life's lessons through book clubs, conversations, and interviews. And together, we can uncover the lessons that others have already learned to help us navigate this crazy, wonderful ride called life. Hello and welcome to Message in the Middle. I'm your host, Marianne, and today we're diving into the risks, unexpected turns, and deeply personal revelations that come with building a business that truly aligns with your core values. Our guest not only created a thriving business, but she built it to align to a purpose-driven life. We're about to peel back the layers of her journey and uncover the messages, challenges, and insights that shaped her path. Krimitsos is the founder and CEO of the Women's Meditation Network, a family of 20 meditation podcasts dedicated to helping women and children find peace, presence, and purpose through guided meditation. Across the network, her episodes are downloaded an average of 4 million times a month. I'm going to just say that again, 4 million times a month. And they're helping listeners across the world manage stress, sleep better, and create intentional lives. Katie, welcome to the show.
Marianne, I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming. I'm so excited to talk to you. I'm a little bit of a fangirl, so I'm going to put that aside. And we're going to have a great conversation.
Yes.
I would love to kick off the conversation with one of my favorite topics, which is the power of the pause.
Ooh, girl.
Yeah. So I think that's a great place to start because you can catch everybody up as to your pause and like why you shifted from a very successful, Biz Women Rock, right? Your previous endeavor, and now are working solely on the brand, the Women's Meditation Network. That's a big shift, and I'd love to hear about how that pause led to all of that.
Yes. So I will say, first off, that I've had many pauses in my life. I continue to have many pauses. I can speak about a recent one I just had last year that was really purposeful, but I'll talk about this one that created the Women's Meditation Network. So rewind to 2014. That is when I became a podcaster for the first time. And when I did, I launched a show called Biz Women Rock that was all for women entrepreneurs. And I was a business strategist. I had, personal individual clients who I would help grow intentional businesses. And I did masterminds. I provided courses, memberships, like all the things, like live events. I loved it. It took me a long time. I mean, talking about that business development is a completely different conversation, but it took me a long time to piece all those things together. But by the end of 2017, I just hit my first 6-figure year. I was like, I'm gelling like this. I feel so good. Like things feel like after all these years, they're finally getting into place. I finally was stepping very confidently into what I had created, and it was all really working. So at the beginning of 2018, I had this big plan about how I was going to triple business and triple my audience, and everything was going to be great. Fast forward, Q1 has passed. I'm hitting all those numbers. Like life is looking good. I am flowing. And then in April of 2018, we found out we were pregnant with our second daughter.
Dun, dun, dun.
And for any of And for any of you who have kids, almost every mother has told me this. The moment you get pregnant, something changes. Some element of your life like completely shifts.
Yeah.
And for me, it was an immediate whisper that I heard, my intuition saying, "You're done with that business." And that was terrifying, girl, because it was not only was I like on the up, like things were looking good. Like a week ago, I was like in love with it, but it was very prosperous and it was taking care of our family. And like there were real practical things that were attached to this business continuing and growing.
Yeah.
So I was very confused by that whisper, but I have practiced listening to my intuition enough at that point. I've been listening to my intuition my whole life. So I knew the voice and I knew I had to pay attention to her. And so I didn't make any immediate decisions. I was knowledgeable enough, I was wise enough to know this is not the time to make decisions. This is the time to pause. So instead of launching all these big things, like literally I just put down a deposit for a retreat that I was going to hold during the summer. And FYI, I never got the deposit back, but I was like, you need to pause. Like, I can't launch anything new because I don't know if that's the right direction. So I basically maintained. I showed up for everything I was responsible for showing up for, current clients, all the things that I was supposed to do, right? Keeping the podcast out. And for what turns out to be about 6 to 8 weeks, which felt like a lifetime at that moment, but right now doesn't seem like that was that long. I really just kind of opted out and said, okay, I'm not going to feel the pressure to do anything new. I'm not going to feel the pressure to grow. I'm not going to feel the pressure to know the answers. I'm just going to be, and I'm going to come inside, and I'm going to see what's here. And what that looked like for me at the time, this looks like something different for everyone, but for me at the time, that looked like going on walks with my husband every single day. Every single day, I would, I was going from like, I'm busy from the moment I drop off kids to the moment I'm picking up kids, but for me, I was like, no, what's the one thing I have to get done that day? And then I need to go walk in nature with my husband.
Wow.
So we would go on these long walks every single day. And every single day, it was me just him listening beautifully to like one moment, I'm like, I'm going to figure this out. When I had my first baby, I totally like rocked my business and it got even more efficient. It grew even better because I became even more focused, right? So in one moment, I'd be like, I'm going to do this. I'm moving forward with what I got. And the next minute, I would be like, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom. I don't want to run a business at all. Like I want to dive in deep to motherhood, right? So, I just vacillated for weeks on all of that stuff. And then one day, a couple weeks in, he lets me sort of, vomit all of this stuff out and I'm done. And he says, what about that meditation idea? And what he was referring to was 4 months prior, when I was all on fire about my business and I was coming up with a big plan and what are new things that I could do? I had actually come up with a meditation for women, a podcast idea.
Wow.
That I didn't do anything with because it didn't really fit with what was going on in my business. But I had the idea. I had told him about it back then. And my husband's damn savvy when it comes to marketing and podcasting. And so he knew right away it was a phenomenal idea, but he didn't push at it. So now here we were in May and he's saying, what about that meditation idea? And I said, what about it? And he said, what about it? And that was the seed that was planted for the Women's Meditation Network. Wow. So I went from not knowing, because I kept asking myself, like, if it's not this, then what am I doing?
Yeah.
And so within an hour, we had talked about it enough where I knew. I was like, oh shit, like this is something. And I knew it would do two things for me. I knew very, very selfishly that would be very fulfilling. I knew it, well, let's say three things that were well-rounded. I knew that it would be the next evolution of my work with this world with women. No one outside would ever understand that. It looked like a complete non sequitur. It looked like, you're a business entrepreneur. What are you doing? Doing meditation. No one knew I meditated. No one knew me for that. No one knew I had a voice that could meditate, right?
Yeah.
But I knew. I was like, this would make perfect sense. Like I'm a writer. So I could write these beautiful scripts. I could speak into the souls of these women with the most intimate messages. I really wanted to tell them about how beautiful you are, how you're worthy, how you've got everything in you that you need. Like I could do that, which is what I was doing in my coaching, really.
Yeah, all the messages, right?
All the messages. So I was like, I could totally do that. I could wrap it in a meditation and this could be really beautiful. So one, I completely saw that through line. Number two, I understood that I could build a business model that gave me time freedom. I did not have time freedom in my prior business. In order to make money, I needed to show up for clients. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying coaching and events and things like that can't be super lucrative. They can, but I needed to be somewhere at a certain time in order for me to do that.
Yeah.
And thankfully, most of my clients were mothers as well. So like I had an enormous amount of grace, but I didn't want to have to rely on that.
Yeah.
So I was like, I could build a business model that allows me to write and record my meditations during nap time, nighttime. And I could do it whenever the hell I wanted. Yeah. And because I knew enough, I was a mom by then. So I knew enough that like this young season of motherhood is so wonky. And, I wanted to be able to have that flow. And the third thing that I saw very quickly was that I knew it could be a business model that I built for financial freedom. And again, this isn't to say that a coaching business can't be incredibly lucrative, because it can. But I was like, I can build a business that really scales and scales big and scales fast and can be so much more outside of the box of what I have already built, right? So I knew those three things within an hour. I knew that stuff. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I knew it was a network. I already knew, like, back then in 2018, if you typed in the words meditation and women in your podcast player, one podcast came up. So I was like, oh God, like there's so many women coming here searching for that are not seeing themselves. And I have something to contribute here that I think is really special. I'm going to come up. I'm going to own that space. I'm going to be here so that no matter where this woman is on her journey, she sees herself here and she gets something that she needs. So that was my fire. That was my vision. And I started with Meditation for Women, the very first original podcast in summer of 2018. And of course, all of the ego and the fear came up, right? All of that. I'm not good enough. I'm an imposter. No one knows me for this stuff. I'm not schooled or certified in any particular meditation school, right? But I had a desire, I had a vision, I had the heart, I had the words, and I just had like the determination that, like, I'm going to figure this out. The way that the universe really kind of winked at me and said, yes, you're on the right track, because those decisions are very hard.
Yeah.
And the courage it takes to actually step into the unknown, to step into something new, my gosh, like, it's a lot, right?
Yes.
You get better at it. It's a muscle, right? But no matter how many times you do it, it's still hard. And so I just was like, I'm just going to do this and I'm going to see how it goes. I really leveraged my old community to come over and to come listen. But what happened very quickly within 3 months, now at that point, Biz Women Rock podcast and company was, oh my gosh, 4.5 years old. And we averaged about 5,000 downloads a month for the podcast. Now I had a very big and very thriving Facebook group, Facebook page. So like there were a couple of places where I was really communicating, but that was our podcast download. So just to give you some sort of numbers here. And that was years in the making. Within 3 months, my Meditation for Women podcast hit 5,000 downloads. And I was like,
right.
Like 5,000 downloads for the month.
There's your message.
Like not right. So I was like, okay, I think I'm on the right track.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's sort of that era. And there was about a year and a half where I managed both. I didn't completely stop that business, the old business, because I still needed it for revenue, but I knew I needed to wean it down. And I knew I needed the time. Women's Meditation Network was in the red for many years until it actually turned around. I took out a second mortgage in order to fund that business.
Wow.
Girl, like I just did all the things because I was like, I got to do this. And my husband was really an advocate for it. He's like, Katie, if we're investing, let's invest in you. This is it. Let's invest. Like, let's take the cash out refi and like, let's put it in. Let's help it grow faster than it could on its own on a bootstrap. Right. Wow. So yeah. So it for about a year and a half, like later that year, I had my baby while I was managing, like, how can I just get one meditation out a week? Right. Yeah. How can I pare down my other business just little by little? And when my daughter turned 1 in December of 2019, when she turned 1, I officially closed down Biz Women Rock and I entered 2020 ready to go full time.
Great year.
And then it ended up being such a magical year, a magical moment for me because, pandemic started in February of 2020, or at least that's when the country shut down, I think.
Yeah.
And I was positioned in a place where my numbers skyrocketed. And for me, what that meant was, oh my God, people need what I have.
Yes.
I need to create more. So that was another kind of hockey stick moment that I can talk about at another time. But to me, even along the way, I was very aware, like there is a divine timing of everything that's going on here. And it was I was continuing to be affirmed that where I was going and these very uncomfortable, unknown steps I was taking was in the right direction. So it was, that was definitely a pivotal moment.
I love that story. And I can hear, even as you tell the story, you go from scared, unsure to passionate about it. Like I could hear that in your voice. Yeah. So you must have went through that in real life. I'm so curious though, did you always have that trust in yourself and in you're laughing. If you're not watching, she's laughing. And your intuition, because for so many of us, we hear these whispers. Our whole life, there's whispers, and many of us ignore those whispers for years and sometimes even forever. But you stopped and listened to it. Like when did that happen? When did you realize, when did you wake up and realize anytime I hear that whisper, I have to listen to it? Like that's a thing because people don't always tune into that.
No, I'm so glad you asked that question. I'm going to answer this with a very empowered advocating statement about meditation. Is that is one of the biggest reasons. That's probably the biggest reason I do meditation, and I do meditation for myself. I practice it for myself. And the biggest reason I want to share it with people, this is the fire behind my why, because yes, meditation is going to help calm your nervous system. It's going to lower stress. It's going to help you sleep. It's going to give you all these beautiful physical and even mental health and spiritual benefits. But deeper than all of that, in my humble opinion, is that it gives you this space to know thyself. And when we know ourselves, when we actually give ourselves an opportunity to slow down and distinguish the noise of the world from the voice inside, we start listening.
Yeah.
Now it's a whole nother muscle to actually act on that, on the whisper, right?
Yeah.
But that, I really wanted to make sure to say that because I really believe meditation is not just about sitting in a lotus position and getting quiet, right? That's not it for me. It's this. This is it. How do I listen? How do I know what my intuition is? How do I listen to it? And how do I help it? How do I know to have it guide my life, right? So let me tell you a story in that. I have always been a very self-inquiring person, like always as a kid, like in junior high, I was writing diaries to myself, not just about this is what happened today, but it was like, I feel this. Why do I feel this? Or this happened at school. Why did this happen? What part did I play in this? I was always incredibly self-inquiring. That said, this one moment was sort of like, I was born and raised one of 6 kids. Okay. So there's an innate forced independence in that because there's no way that parents can be helicopter parents and do everything for 6 kids. And I was raised in the 80s, right? I was born in 78. So I wasn't like the latchkey kid per se, but like we had a lot of independence, a lot of autonomy.
Yeah.
So there's something in that like I have been forced at an early age to sort of figure some stuff out on my own. Then fast forward, it's my first year of college at Arizona State University. I was raised in Arizona, and I had been an athlete my whole life. I loved sports, still love being an athlete. And my sport of choice, like my foremost sport of choice, was softball. That's the one I excelled in the most. And I got a lot of academic scholarships to go to Arizona State. So much so that like not only like my entire college was paid for basically.
Nice.
And then some. So like I worked my butt off to like get all these academic scholarships. So here I am flying free freshman year of ASU, living the college life in the dorm, on the campus, like all that sort of stuff. And I'm a month or 2 in, and I'm just having this feeling like, this is the time of like, I really miss softball. Like I really miss like the routine of softball, like everything that it was in my life. And I hear that ASU is having walk-on tryouts. So I go walk on, I try out. Very long story short, I don't make it. And now I'm in this position of like, God, I still really want to play. What do I do? And if I'm anything, I'm really resourceful. I'm constantly asking how. Okay, so even at 18 years old, I was asking, well, if I still really want to play, how can I play? So I do enough research to figure out that there are local community colleges, the closest is 10 minutes away, that I could go try out for. So I do. I go try out for Mesa Community College and I make the team. And I'm like, yes, this feels like home. I love being on the field, right? Well, now I'm in this quandary that is, okay, well, in order to be eligible to play over at MCC, I need to be a full-time student there. And in order to keep all my scholarships at Arizona State, I need to be a full-time student there. So now I very quickly kind of see, like, I don't think it's wise or possible or sustainable to be a student athlete carrying 24 credits. Like, I don't think that that's wise. So that's not an option. So now I'm like, okay, well, how do I still really want to play softball. I still really want to be here on campus and have this like university life. How do I do that? So I find out that I only have to take 1 credit. At this moment, I call my parents and I say, here's the pros and cons. Here's what I want. Here's all the details. Here's all the data. What do I do? And so this is going to answer your question. My parents say to me, we love you. We know you're going to figure it out. We know no matter what you choose, everything's going to be okay.
I love that.
Yeah. So at 18 years old, I'm making probably what amounted to like a $60,000 decision.
Yeah.
Do I keep my scholarships and do kind of what even old me says I should do? Or do I follow this little whisper that says, I really want to play softball and I've got a way I could do it. How do I do it? Like, what do I do?
Yeah.
So I chose softball.
Wow.
I chose softball. And I figured out a way where I could take one class at ASU so I could still live in the dorms and have the university life. I had friends there by then. And then I would I would drive to school over at MCC, go play ball there. And I sort of had these two lives that somehow figured themselves out. And it worked. And it was very fulfilling. I dropped the scholarships and I had enough money whereby it lasted me like a year. And like maybe after a year and a half, I was like, okay, what do I do now? Okay, I go work. Like I go get a job to pay for, okay, that's not that big of a deal. So I did that. And you would think that this story ends with, oh, yay, she got the softball experience. But it doesn't. At that point, I wanted to be a professional softball player. So at the end of these 2 years, I was already starting to do all my resumes and stuff to go to a university so I could climb up that ladder. Well, guess what happens? At the end of 2 years, I am fried with softball. I don't want to pick up another glove again. I'm done. I have scratched that itch. And you would think that that would have me say, wow, that was a bad decision that I made back then. But I didn't, because every decision leads us to a new place where we have a new vision and a new experience of what's going on. And we are free to make a new choice.
Yeah.
So now here I was 2 years later, having figured all this out, having piecemealed my own perfect little life together, now wanting something completely new. So I was like, how do I what do I want? I want to be back at the university full time. I want to be 100% over there. How do I do that? Okay, I became an RA, a resident assistant, so that my room and board were completely free. And then I worked on the weekends as a server in order to pay my tuition. And I loved that life. Like, I just loved it. So my point in saying this is I'm 46 now. That's when I was 18. That muscle has been working for a long time. And so I have come to recognize what she sounds like, what my intuition sounds like, how she speaks to me. And I have come to trust her because time after time after time again, I have chosen to take action on what I hear. And it always turns out because your intuition always knows best. Always. Now, it doesn't always turn out like I expect. It's not always sunshine and rainbows on the other side.
Yeah.
And I choose to believe that was, I needed to have that path for some reason. And inevitably, Steve Jobs says, like, you can only connect the dots looking backwards. And I really believe that. So,
yes,
for me, meditation becomes one of the many tools to come inside, know yourself, give yourself space to listen to that whisper so you can become familiar with her. And then choose bravely at some point to say yes and see how it goes. And trust that, like, you're going to be okay. No matter what, you're going to be okay.
I just have to say you're a bit of a unicorn. You must know that because this is not common. I don't think it's common for people to have that innate, I'm going to say innate, because it sounds like you had something very, very early on, even in your childhood. But beyond that, I want to talk about what you said about getting quiet and using meditation to sort of learn to tune into that voice or that inner voice. One of the things I hear often, and I've had to deal with this myself, is when trying to learn meditation or start meditation and get into a meditation practice, there's a lot going on in our heads. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of traffic there. And when you get quiet, it's not quiet, right? There's no outside external noise, but there's a lot of noise still.
Yeah.
What do you say to people who try it and give up on it because they say, I can't sit there for an hour or half an hour because it's noisy in my head and I'm thinking about the dishwasher and the kids or the thing I got to do for my job or whatever. What do you say to people who say that? Because I just know a lot of people experience that.
It's so common. It's so common. And to me, it's a myth I want to bust about meditation. When you start meditating, and even meditating for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, the goal isn't for your mind to go blank. That's not the goal. Like, I meditate, therefore my mind is blank. That's not what happens. Your brain's job is to make thoughts. So it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, you can't stop it from making thoughts. Your job as a practitioner, practice is the operative word here, i.e. never perfect, always evolving. Your job as a practitioner is to do the most important thing in meditation, which is observe. Observe the thoughts. And this is why meditation, like guided meditations, are so beautiful because they will guide you. They will handhold you through this process, but they will allow you to become aware of those thoughts as an entity, as a thing happening rather than you. Like when I have the thought of like, oh, I got to do the dishes. I got to do XYZ. Here are all the things coming up. Brrr, here's the thing I'm really worried about. Here's the thing whatever. Like there is a moment, a space that exists between the thought and you. And we don't often see this, and we merge the two and we think that the thought is us.
100%.
And that's not true.
Right.
So busy Katie, who has all these things to do on her plate, and I'm kind of worried about this big thing happening that needs to go off today. Like those are thoughts, and that's not me. So what meditation does is it helps us practice separating the thoughts from us. And so this is where I'm directly answering your question. It's okay that I'm having those thoughts. And so meditation helps me become aware of those thoughts. And visually, I love using the example of just seeing them separate, like seeing them as like clouds going past in the sky, right? I don't expect the sky to be cloudless. The sky is going to have clouds in it. So I just want to observe those clouds. I want to just let them go by. And in doing that, we use meditation to come back here, come back into the heart, come back into the breath. That's why we use breath and breathing techniques so much in meditation, or physical techniques, because when we bring our attention away from the thoughts, and I'm telling you, I'm guiding you, like take a deep breath in. This is what you're feeling. Have your belly like come out like a balloon. When you're concentrated, when your attention is concentrated on your physical breath, all of a sudden those clouds just kind of float by without you even noticing them, or they become a little more background and a little less foreground.
Yeah.
So that's the encouragement that I would really give to everyone, which is it's okay to have thoughts. You're going to have thoughts no matter how long you've been meditating, and it's okay. The practice is in separating from them, observing them, and coming back to center, coming back to your breath as a tool, coming back to a mantra as a tool, coming back to presence. And when you do that, that is the magic space where there becomes a little portal that opens up, and it's a little more space in between thoughts, a little more space in between breath. And that's typically when and where I hear the whisper.
I love that.
You don't have to hear the whisper there. That's not the goal, to hear a whisper. Like you don't have to check it off. Like I succeeded. I heard the whisper. That's not it. But that space is when you start feeling like warm tinglies in your body and you're like, wow, I just had like 30 seconds of stillness.
Yes.
Holy cow. In my 30-minute practice, I had 30 seconds of stillness. Yeah. That was amazing. Yeah. And I promise you, the more you do it and you find those little moments, the more you're going to want more of that. So you're going to show up a little bit more. It's sort of like a runner's high, like the moment that as a runner, you stop thinking about like, oh, my back hurts. Oh, my knee. Oh, I can't breathe. And you just are sort of in the zone, and everything's sort of like fades into the background. That's really what this moment is in meditation. And it's not going to happen for an hour the whole time. Like, I mean, maybe there are some people who have sort of mastered it and practice it so much and that they do that, but my brain is still all over the place, right? So I would just encourage people to show up and let it not be what they perceive to be as perfect.
I love that. And I love the reminder about how it helps you learn to separate yourself from your thoughts, because I think that helps us in so many places, right? So many of us deal with those, I'll say, inner mean girls, or the negative thoughts we have anytime we're trying to do something, and especially outside of our comfort zone.
Yeah.
I think the more work you can do to help you separate that thought isn't really you, it helps you in those situations too. It helps you take the pause and say, yeah, that's okay. I hear it, but I'm good, and keep marching on. That's a big deal.
I think it's a moment of true empowerment, because if you can separate from your thoughts, and if you can come back into this state of knowing who you are, I am a whole beautiful soul. Like that's who I am. I'm not Katie, the mother. I'm not Katie, the meditation person. Like I'm not a podcaster. I'm not the wife. Like that's not who I am. Those are all identities that I've happily chosen in my life. But like I'm a soul. I am a whole soul who is loved, who is love. So if you can separate those things, the really beautiful part that becomes so empowering is you could see, oh, that one helps me. That one doesn't.
Yes.
When I beat myself up, that's not helpful. So like mom guilt is such a great example of this, right? Like I've had a couple moments of mom guilt, and I've learned to let myself feel it. I just yelled at my kids. That doesn't feel good. I've learned to let myself feel it, and that's okay. And then I sort of come back into myself and I say, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
Like you're whole. It's okay. We all make mistakes.
Yep.
And I see that as separate and all of the ego shouting, you're not a good mom. You suck. You're not enough. Blah, 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 blah. Like I can just watch those go by because I'm like, that's not productive. Like those don't help me. What helps me is the kind, graceful words of like, you're going to be okay. Go apologize to your kid.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I like the other image that somebody told me when you recognize those negative thoughts, think of it as a balloon and pop. Let that
oh,
one,
I
let
like
that one
that.
pop.
Ooh, I'm going to use that.
It's great for if somebody that really needs imagery. Cause I know like a lot of people, I think Dr. Amy Johnson kind of coined the clouds coming in and out with like the weather, but the balloon pop for me is a really great image. Think of a big red balloon pop.
Yeah.
It's gone, right?
Yeah.
It's not in there.
Yeah.
So I love that. I want to ask you about, I've heard you say that energy management is your secret sauce. And
Yeah.
I want to know how that fits with sort of figuring out when to press the lever to go harder and when to sort of pull back because you're trying to build a business, you're building a brand. It's a big deal. It takes time. It takes effort. How do you not get caught up in the hustle? And is that part of that whole energy management?
Yes. This all leads with your intuitive guidance, meaning, what do I need right now? What do I need right now? So that's a really big part of this.
Mm-hmm.
So let me just explain what I believe energy management to be. So we've all heard of time management, your practical, like, block your time and put all your meetings on one day, right? Like there's that, right? This is the day that I work on X. This is the day that I work on Y. So there's all these beautiful time management tips, which are great. Where I start is in understanding my values. There's sort of 3 layers to this. So first I start with understanding and being very aware of my values and that these can shift and evolve and change, right?
Sure.
And in this particular season, my values are I want to be a very present parent who has lots of time with her girls. Okay. I want to have time with my husband. So he and I are constantly evolving our relationship. And I don't get in the very normal, very usual rut of marriage, which is we're roommates, right? Girl, I've been there. Let me not pretend that I am not there. Okay. Or not have been there. That is a value of mine to breathe life into my marriage. I want to make sure that I'm healthy and physically fit and I'm taking care of my body and my mind. And I want to continue breathing life into this business, my gifts, my drive and desire to bring what is special in me out into the world in a really unique way. And luckily I've built a business that is set up for it now. So it's like, great, how do I continue doing that? So those are just 4 or 5 examples of that. My next question becomes, how are those values living on my calendar? That's where rubber meets the road, right?
Yeah.
So if I say that I want quality time with my girls and that's the kind of parent I want to be, am I putting down my phone when I pick them up?
Yeah.
Am I checking email? Am I doing one last thing after they've already gotten home? Not really. Like they're very used to mommy's phone ringing off the hook all the time, like when they're home, and I'm not really on it that much. So that's one thing. When do me and my husband have a weekly date night? Where is that on my calendar? And then when it comes to, I'll jump into the business stuff. When it comes to business, I visually see my business life as like happening at a week at a time. And so I'm asking myself, what is important for me in my business? What are the priorities for me in my business to live these gifts that I have and to share with the world? And then how does that live on my calendar? So where energy management comes is, okay, let me do the time management things called time blocking. And, and this sort of bleeds into energy management because, for example, Mondays, and I just kind of rerouted this. So like Mondays, I'm in the mood to get shit done. I'm in the mood to like administratively, like boom, 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 set up my week, check things off the list, boom, boom, boom. I'm not in the mood to be creative and to write, and I'm not in that mood, right? So what I did is I said, great. Mondays are Money Mondays. I'm doing a couple big admin things, marketing Mondays, like that sort of stuff. Like that's what I'm doing. I don't do meetings on Mondays. It's rare that I have a meeting on Monday because I don't want to be interrupted from getting shit done. Tuesdays, I have a meeting with my team. I might do 1 or 2 meetings for that, but really the morning I have for like leftover stuff from Monday. Wednesdays and most of Thursdays or half of Thursdays, I'm writing. It's writing Wednesdays. I don't book any appointments on that day. And then Thursday morning, I leave open for like leftover, right? If I didn't get the writing done that I needed to do. Thursdays, I book every meeting I can possibly have on Thursdays. So Thursdays and Fridays are like, or Thursdays are really like, what meeting do I need to have? What interviews are happening? Like, what do I need to, where I'm already going to be here. So, and then Fridays are sort of leftover. So they can be a mishmash of everything. So I say that that's how I actually structure it. But the important part of energy management is knowing that those are the best times for me to do those tasks. So I do them effectively and efficiently. Like I just said, like, for example, on Thursday, yesterday, it was back-to-back interviews and meetings, right? I'm already in the energy of doing a podcast interview. I'm already feeling this groove. It's so fun. I don't want to stop that and shift to like, oh, now I got to go write an article.
Yeah,
and then I need to stop and shift and go do my QuickBooks update. I don't want to, it takes an enormous amount of energy to shift gears that way.
Yeah.
So I'm going to stay in the energy of interviews and conversations. I'm going to stay in that energy for as long as I can. And then same thing with writing, like Wednesdays are my writing day, right? So like I wake up knowing it's chill. I'm having my coffee. My husband's taking the kids to school. I can take my time. I don't feel rushed. I have learned about myself in order for me to create and to write well, I can't feel rushed. I can't feel like I've got other things to do. I can't feel like I have like a time stop. So I need to slowly baby step into it and boom, it'll come out. So that's energy management. It's you marrying your tasks with the ideal energy that you will be in to do it. And it can change. Like it can be an experiment. It can change.
Sure.
So, I would highly recommend. So for example, when's the best time to work out? That's always the big question. When's the best time to work out? Oh, mornings at 5 a.m. before everyone wakes up. Mornings are always the best time. There's a lot of data that backs that up. But my answer to when is the best time to work out is when you're going to do it every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when the best time to work out is. And so you don't need to follow anyone else's script other than knowing yourself and knowing when am I in the best energy where I'm most likely to do it. I'm not going to put it off. And so now it's 11 a.m., right? Like that's my best time to work out. I've got this trigger that'll trigger me into doing it. I'm not tired yet enough. Like I haven't gotten deep enough into whatever that is. So that's energy management. And I think that that's the secret sauce to not only getting more done, but doing things more intentionally and being able to like slide through and breathe more life into the things that are important to you. So you don't feel bogged down by all the other crap.
That makes a ton of sense. And I think I hear again a theme with you of being tuned into yourself, really knowing what works for you. And then the comment you made about you don't need to work out when anybody else says you need to work out. I think let's generalize that because you don't need to be on the path that anybody else is on. Do what works for you and find your own flow. And that's what's really going to be successful for you. So great message. I know we're running out of time and we got to kind of wind up here, but I'm dying to know this whole brand, so the Women's Meditation Network, it's built on your voice. It's built on you being front and center. And at the beginning, you said you saw the vision of it scaling and you can see that and you continue to look forward to that. So I'm curious, do you still think that business model supports being able to continue to scale when one person can only do so much?
Yep.
So what does that look like?
Yeah. How have I scaled? So it's interesting. When I first started the Women's Meditation Network, I actually knew that I did not want to be the face of it. Like I was pretty clear on that. It was the exact opposite in my prior business. My face was everywhere. I was the personal brand. And for many years that did me well. Like you can see this little logo behind me right now. And if you look at any of my podcasts, my face is not on it. I literally just put my face on the front of my website a month ago. So what I'm saying is that in the beginning, I was very conscious that I was building something that I eventually wanted to be able to sell. Well, whether I sold it or not is not really the question, but I wanted to build an asset to sell. So I knew I was going to walk this line between how do I create this entity, but it's not reliant on me, right? Me, my face.
Yeah.
So as the podcasts have grown, I have had to ask myself, I only have a certain amount of bandwidth to write and record.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Like, how do I possibly continue that and grow it? So I'll give you a couple of examples. In the beginning, it looked like some repurposing. Well, I wrote and recorded this sleep meditation for women. I'm going to put it on a new show I'm going to grow called Sleep Meditation for Women. So how can I repurpose
Okay.
what I've already created and put it somewhere new so that a new audience will find it, or it's kind of organized in a new way? And that works. And I continue to do that in a lot of different ways that I think is really helpful. So a job done once can stretch and work for a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
So that's one big thing. The second is finally I had to find other writers, other voices, because I could not. Writing is the part that takes the longest for me. And even the voices now, the voiceovers take a long time for me. But so eventually I, did the very sometimes painful work of like trying out a writer. And I eventually found a couple of different writers who I could train. I learned very early that I didn't want a meditation writer. I wanted a creative writer who I could train to write in the way that I wanted. I found a couple of those. And so now I didn't have to write all the scripts, right? Which was really great. And then eventually it was like, okay, well, how do I it started first with, I think, healing meditation for women, which is one of our shows. It was literally like, I knew from the get-go, it was actually an old client friend of mine from the Biz Women Rock years. And she and I are very, very close. And she's a Reiki master and intuitive. And she had done, like I had asked her, I was like, can you do a couple like guest guided meditations for me about this Reiki thing or this, healing thing that I wasn't qualified to talk about? So that's how it started, like me trialing her out, and the listeners loved her. And I was like, let's do your own show.
Love it.
So she writes and records all of her own stuff. The company produces it. And then that got me brave enough to have some other voices. So, so little by little, I've hired different voices for different shows, and I will trial it out by bringing them on some of the original shows and just as like 1 or 2 episodes and just kind of see how it goes. Yeah. So that's a way that I've been able to scale. But, on some of the administration on the back end has been a very big deal because, I mean, girl, 20 podcasts, the vast majority of them are daily episodes. So that we're talking hundreds of MP3 episodes that we are uploading.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's an administrative beast. And so 2.5 years ago, I brought my sister on as my full-time employee. And, that decision itself was a really big thing. I had never had a full-time employee before, but she came on as my full-time employee and slowly over time became that person who could like completely do all the administrative work.
That's great.
She has now grown. We're 2.5 years into it. This is the beauty of it, of scaling. She has now grown so well as she's like our production manager. So she actually oversees everyone. I really don't talk, like I'm not the director of each of these individual talents anymore. She's the one coordinating everything. She's the one with the schedule. She's the one knowing all of that sort of stuff. And so her job, and there's other initiatives that we have in our company that she is happily diving into and championing to the point where I had to hire a VA who now can do all those uploads and like do all that administrative work.
That's
so
great.
It's been really beautiful evolving this company and scaling it in a way that still feels really good. Now, I want to tie this bow on what I had started with, which was I want to make sure I'm not the face of the company kind of a thing. Probably about 2 years ago, I knew that was not going to serve me anymore, that I needed to actually really step into like owning my face as the part of this company. And I was really uncomfortable with that for about 1.5 years. So that brings us to about 6 months ago that I finally was like, okay, I'm the face of this company. And the way I made it work in my head was sort of like Sarah Blakely and Spanx or Sarah Blakely and Sneaks, her new company, right? Sarah Blakely herself is a personal brand. She obviously is very connected to Spanx, right? But Spanx can exist on its own.
Right.
So I was like, I can totally do this in my own special way. I can breathe more of my personal life and my personal personality into the shows because I wasn't really doing that before. I wasn't telling the story as to why I did this meditation. Like I was really keeping it like, just come and it was very transactional, like come and get your meditation, right?
Yeah.
So since then, like right now I do now a live meditation every single Monday, Meditation Monday, and it goes live. And then I put it across all of my shows and you're hearing me in my very real interactive kind of a self. And then every single Wednesday, I send out the weekly breath newsletter where I'm writing just a story that may or may not have anything to do with meditation, but it has to do with self-awareness and the lessons I've learned. And then I'm speaking that like it's this solo episode on all of my shows. So my audience is, I'm absolutely breathing more life and showing them more of who I am so that I can position myself that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So once again, it's just been very like keeping in tune with what it is my business needs in accordance to what my vision really is and what my needs are. So that it's been a really intricate dance that I don't do perfectly, but I feel like, as long as I'm staying attuned to it and recalibrating regularly, I can keep guiding it.
I love all of that. And I love I don't do it perfectly, because do any of us do it perfectly? No.
No.
I think embracing that is huge. And I also think one of the biggest lessons I had to learn, and honestly, it was podcasting that taught me it, was don't be tied to the outcome. Set your path, take some steps, whether you know the whole plan or not, and then just be open to what comes. Because I think when we get in our heads and we're trying to plan all the steps and all the things and know where we're going to land, it hardly ever works that way. And then we get disappointed or something. So I think being open to it, and you certainly are. So many good lessons and so many great messages. What a great conversation. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, Marianne, thank you so much. This is so good. I love these conversations, and I love giving people like a very realistic view of just how powerful meditation can be. And more importantly, how powerful it is to get to know yourself, so that because when you get to know yourself, you have all the fear, you have all the what ifs, but like, you've got it.
Yeah.
Like, you really see, like, you've got it.
You're
I'm
empowered.
the master. What do you say? Like, I'm the captain of this ship.
Yes.
I'm the captain of this ship,
Yes.
and I'm allowed to do whatever I want to do.
Yes. And you can start believing that slowly. It doesn't have to come all at once. So
absolutely.
Great message. Women's Meditation Network, guys, go listen to it. Thank you so much again for coming and talking with us.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Message in the Middle with Marianne. If you enjoyed the podcast, please take a minute to share it and write a review, as it helps bring new listeners to our audience. If you'd like to keep the conversation going between episodes, please join us at Facebook group Message in the Middle with Marianne.